And now it is a feel-good Friday and a
Red Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero wrapping up the work week with you, taking you into the weekend. Plenty to get to on today's show. We appreciate you spending some time with us on this Friday afternoon. We're here with you until about 5:30 today. We're off a little bit early because we've got our 580 high school basketball doubleheader game of the week. United Kansas Conference action tonight as the Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds take on the Chargers of Topeka West. That game will be at the Charger Dome at Topeka West High School. The third year in a row these teams will have met, but it is the first time since 2018 that they are meeting as league mates now with Topeka West moving over to the UKC. That's coming up with pregame at 5:30. Tip-off for the girls' game scheduled for 5:45. The boys will play right after that. So join myself and the coach, Larry Latimer, for the call of that one coming up here on 580 WIBW this evening. As for the show today, again, a lot to get to on the program. We'll lead things off talking about Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos here in just a minute. We've got our keys to the game and big Chief picks for Sunday's Chiefs versus Broncos tilt. We'll also preview the game later this hour with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, our Smokehouse Chiefs insider. Later on in the show, we will preview the border war, KU versus Mizzou. KU is favored by nearly 3.5 points on the road in Columbia coming up tomorrow, 4:15. What an odd start time, 4:15. Anyway, that's when the border war is taking place at Mizzou Arena coming up tomorrow, so we'll preview that game. We'll take a look at the rest of the NFL weekend. 6 teams are on a bye this week. Week 14, 6 teams are on a bye. That seems like a lot for this late in the season. But plenty of good games coming up. We'll talk about all of those. With our 580 Sports Talk headlines, we've got What Is Wrong With You, our weekly championship, What's Wrong With You. We also have a round of Change My Mind coming up this hour. It is all coming your way here on 580 WIBW and 580 Sports Talk. You can chime in with your thoughts on anything we're talking about today on the Big O Tire text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And you can also chime in the comment section on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is the YouTube channel. Check it out. You can watch us do the show. You can also hit us up with a comment, whatever you're thinking about what we are talking about on the show today. Really quickly, though, Dan, before we get to our keys to the game, last night, I did not get to watch most of the Thursday night game live. I left home right before the first quarter ended, right before Baker came into the game. Abby and I went to a concert last night. So we took off, and I didn't get to watch the game. I checked it a little bit on my phone between sets, and then I rewatched it when I got home. It is astounding how many times the Raiders have embarrassed themselves this year. I know the story more than anything is Baker Mayfield is back, Rams country, let's bake, all of that. I get it. But as much as I like Baker Mayfield, you know I'm a Baker Mayfield guy. And I hope this leads to success. Maybe not next week because the Rams play the Packers, but I hope this leads to success for him. That'd be a cool story if he can kind of rejuvenate his career with Sean McVay. The end of last night's game was entirely because the Las Vegas Raiders are terribly coached and overall incompetent. Completely because of that. No, Baker Mayfield, the deep throw to Ben Skowronek, an awesome catch, the touchdown to Van Jefferson, good highlights. Jerry Tillery has the most P-rating of all P-ratings of NFL players after that penalty yesterday. Well, what are you doing? Why is Patrick Graham playing press man with 15 seconds left? After the game, Baker Mayfield's like, what are you doing?
Who jumps offside on a punt?
Yeah.
They jumped offside on a punt and allowed the drive to continue. And I'll be completely honest, as that drive unfolded, even when they scored to make it 16-10, I felt like I could turn the game off. Because the thing about having a quarterback who doesn't yet know the names of all of his teammates is you can't really go tempo all that effectively. Like, they ran the longest drive in the world in the fourth quarter, and I thought, well, they're not going to leave themselves enough time, even though they scored to make it 16-10. Oh, that's nice. Good for Baker leading the touchdown drive. I turned the game off. I couldn't get it back on in time to see the conclusion of the game, because never in my wildest did I think that the Raiders would trick that game off in the way that they did. But the Raiders played that whole second half like, we don't need to score. We're good. We got 13. Yeah, we screwed up there down in the red zone in the final seconds of the first half. Derek Carr threw a goofy interception. But we don't need to score. Baker Mayfield doesn't know his teammates' names. We're fine. They can't score on us. We're the Raiders. We're money. We're good money with leads. Do you know what the Raiders' record is when they have a lead at halftime? Like
1-6.
They're 0-4. 0-4 when they take a lead into the locker room.
How does that happen, man?
Josh McDaniels. That is how that happened.
Yeah.
You are running press man, single high safety coverage, suicide coverage against a team that has to have a touchdown. And Baker Mayfield in the huddle, that is the greatest gift he has ever been given in his NFL career. Because a career that was frankly on life support like a week ago now feels like it has new breath in its lungs. And because he was able to go to the huddle and say, oh, they're going to play me press man. All right. Hey, 12. Van, is it? Is it Van? Van. Cool name, Van. Hey, Van. Just go down the sideline. The corner covering you is Buns. They got the 29th ranked defense secondary in the league against the pass. Just run a go on your side, okay? The rest of you, it doesn't really matter what you do. I'm throwing it up to my guy, Van. Van? Yeah, Van. Great. Go to my left. Go down the field. I'm going to hit you. We'll play 500. On three. Ready, break.
500.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Just incredible incompetence by the Raiders. Just when they were starting to look like they were maybe rounding into form and looked like the football team a lot of people thought they might be to start the season. They were winning some games. They pulled out a couple of overtime wins. They were on the fringes of the playoff hunt, the AFC. That's over now.
Yeah, no kidding. I saw good old Twitter loser Raider Cody tweet. We don't even deserve the playoffs. Buddy, that was not really in the discussion. Don't worry. You're not going to worry about that this year.
Has Raider Cody ever had a conversation with a female in person, do we think?
Yes, he has. Ones that aren't his wife, in fact. He got canceled, as the kids say, a year or two ago because he was DMing women who were not his wife.
In case you want to know about Raider Cody. I know way too much now about Raider Cody. Jeez.
I have to get to that note to lead the show because it is unthinkable. It is thinkable, though,
because it's the Raiders, and this is what they've done all year long, blow double-digit second-half leads. They have made a habit of it.
Also, did you see Derek Carr's interception in the second quarter?
I did.
I heard it described as a Carson Wentz-like interception.
Like, come on.
Like, buddy. Look, they had 126 passing yards in the first half, Derek Carr. Now, maybe I'd taken this a little more personally than most because I had a significant financial interest in Derek Carr cracking the 200-yard passing mark last night. He had 126 passing yards in the first half. He had 11 in the second half because his coach has malto meal for brains dripping out his ears on the sideline while he watched his team blow a lead to a quarterback that barely remembers his locker combination. They gave him like the temporary key card.
His roster picture on the website is a great silhouette.
He's a probationary employee.
Probationary.
A 90-day probationary period. And he just scored 2 touchdowns in the final 4 minutes. That is so embarrassing. Contract the Raiders.
I mean, it's what the Raiders do. It's what Josh McDaniels does. That's just his shtick. Teams are not well disciplined, and they stink.
Good for Baker, though. Good for Baker Mayfield. Like, you feel good for him.
Oh yeah.
It hasn't gone as you would have imagined it would go for the number 1 overall pick in the draft. But, like, Baker Mayfield's never come off as a guy who's just a total jerk. I think he's handled some things around him probably as well as they could have been handled. The whole Odell Beckham's dad making YouTube videos about how he never throws to his son. Like, Baker handled that as well as anybody in that position could have handled it. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's had a couple of tough breaks and maybe isn't quite the player you would expect the number 1 overall pick in the draft to be, but that's a feel-good moment for him and maybe for the Rams to salvage something moving forward, but it's way more fun to talk about and laugh at the Raiders.
It really is. All right, well, let's take the AFC West. Let's get to our local team, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're taking out another team that is hilarious, the Denver Broncos. Well, it'd be more funny if they weren't just
horrifically awful to watch. Like the Raiders occasionally will make a play. Devontae Adams, catch of the year last night against Jalen Ramsey, because Devontae Adams is always known to Jalen Ramsey. But the Broncos are just miserable. There's just no fun at all to watch. So you'd think the Chiefs should win this game fairly handily. They're favored by 9.5 points, depending on where you look. My first key to this game, it's simple because it's been what I've harped on every single day, all week since we finished talking about the Bengals game. And even talking about the Bengals game, because if the Chiefs have done this, maybe they end up winning. Establish some dominance on the line of scrimmage. I think you can apply the same principle to the offensive side, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But defensively, get after the quarterback. This is a bad offensive line, a banged-up bad offensive line, and a quarterback who used to be especially dangerous because he was so mobile and sneaky and can slither out of sacks in the backfield. Doesn't do that anymore. Like Mike totally shot, or he has just decided actively, I'm not going to run anymore. I'm not going to move anymore. He is way too statuesque in the pocket to be the player Russell Wilson was at his peak in Seattle. So hit him. Get him on the ground. Show me over the next 5 games that you can rebuild your confidence, because I'm sure it was somewhat shot after that game against Cincinnati. Rebuild your confidence, be up on bad offensive line, show us that you still got that in you and it wasn't a fluke during the winning streak. That's all I want to see. It's not a specific X's and O's matchup part of it. I just know that the Chiefs have too much money invested in their defensive line. In fact, more money than anybody else in the league. When you consider what Frank Clark is making and Chris Jones is making, the deal that David Carlos done last offseason, more money on the Chiefs defensive line than any other starting defensive line in the league. So go make use of it. Go prove that you are better than these bad offensive line.
Russell Wilson doesn't do quite as much of the miracle working in the pocket that he used to, and that's an understatement. But he still bobs and weaves a lot in the pocket when you get him off of his first look. Mm-hmm. And quite frequently that bobbing and weaving ends in either he's trying to throw the ball out of bounds or he winds up in the arms of a defensive lineman. I got to believe there's a certain level of satisfaction for some of the defensive linemen in this league who have been trying and failing to get their hands on Russell Wilson for years. Well, now he's gettable, especially behind this patchwork offensive line that the Broncos have. So I would imagine there's a little something extra for Frank Clark, for Chris Jones, even though this hasn't been a divisional rival for that long. Yeah. Still, it's Russell Wilson. It's a hard guy to sack. It used to be a big deal when you could bring him down. And they're going to get their chances, certainly.
Well, to Frank Clark's point, since we have found out over the last year-ish that apparently no defensive players in Seattle like Russell Wilson, is there not a non-zero chance that Frank Clark is saying, all right, my turn.
Yeah.
I also would like to hit this guy.
With the Birdman hand rub. Thinking about sacking Russell Wilson. My first key to the game, I talk a lot about it. The idea that you need to keep a struggling team struggling, and the Broncos are struggling in a lot of different ways. It's one thing to just know that they're 3-9 and they can't score points. And then the deeper you dive into the stats, the worse it gets. There's nothing underlying that says, boy, they've really been unlucky, or boy, they've actually been really good at this. No, they've been bad at everything. But where they've been worse is third down. The Broncos completed 8 of their 15 third down opportunities in week 1 against the Seahawks. That's pretty good. That's over 50%.
That's solid.
Since then, they have not converted more than 31.5% of their third downs in a game this season. They were 2 for 12 on third down last week. They are 27% converting third downs this season. That is unfathomably bad. So if you're the Chiefs, keep them struggling on those third downs. Get the pass rush home. Get Russell Wilson off of that first read. Make sure that the drop zone coverage guys are at their landmarks where they need to be. Take Greg Dulcich away. He's the tight end who's a rookie this year and has become a big target on those third down plays. Do well tackling on the outside, about which more in a minute. Make them continue to struggle on third downs, because that is why the Broncos have been so bad at scoring points this year. They just simply cannot sustain drives. Keep them struggling in that regard.
I'm right there with you on that one. It is kind of amazing the fact that they just have not. A couple games early in the season. I know it was the game they played against Houston. There were a number of games where it was one time in the fourth quarter. Wow, they put together a full drive.
Yeah, they get their one.
It shouldn't have taken you that long. You should be able to do that more than once a game.
San Francisco game was the same deal, right?
Yeah.
They had the one touchdown drive, and it was enough. They won 11-10, or whatever the final score of that game ended up being.
Unbelievable. My number 2 key for you in this game on the offensive side of the ball, get the ball out quickly. Patrick Mahomes is generally very good against the blitz. That has generally been something that he has picked apart. But by the same token, Denver's defense is really good for a reason. They've been getting home with those blitzers. They've still been able to generate pressure, even though it's a talented but still somewhat hodgepodge defensive line. Bradley Chubb not there anymore. They don't have a ton of guys who are top-end pass rushing talent. Draymond Jones is a nice player. He's a very solid player. Barry Brown, the guy who you mentioned yesterday, he's had a great season for the Broncos. But in terms of the guys who are actually going to have their hand in the dirt on the defensive line, not a ton of great talent. So Ejiro Evero, thank you. He has found a successful way to still generate a lot of pressure despite that. So if I'm the Chiefs, and I know, for one, I'm getting Kadarius Toney back in this game, at least it sure sounds like he's going to be back in this game. Get the ball to him. Get the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster. Get them the ball, quick out, let them make plays in space, especially when it comes to Kadarius Toney, because similar to Hardman, he's just such a physical specimen. You want him to have the ball with a chance to just take off from a dead stop and make something happen.
Denver's linebackers aren't very good. They're decent in the secondary with Patrick Surtain on the outside and Justin Simmons at safety, but they just don't have a ton of playmakers on that defense. They're well coached and they are effective with the blitz and with the pass rush. So, yeah, if Mahomes is able to get the ball out in a hurry, this feels like a game Kelsey goes nuts. Unless Denver wants to double him the entire game, which they might. That might be sound strategy. But you do that, all the best, because that could mean Juju has a big game. That could mean, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, if he does play, he's questionable for Sunday. Maybe one of those guys has a good game. Maybe MVS. Somebody will be there if they choose to double Kelsey. And if they don't, Kelsey's going to have 100 yards, no problem.
Do you think they might try to do the Surtain on Kelsey thing again? Because I know that was the whole thing last year, that he's going to be the Kelsey stopper. Bro, don't put that pressure on him. He's a rookie. Don't do that to him.
They don't have enough good cornerbacks to sacrifice Surtain to Kelsey, I don't think.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
I don't think they're good enough to try that this time around. My second key, and I alluded to it during the course of talking about my first key to the game, tackle better on the perimeter. The Chiefs lost last week in part because they didn't do a good enough job bringing the ball carrier to the ground, particularly in some very critical situations. That 3rd down and 6 when Jamar Chase catches the ball on the edge, and there are 4 tacklers and 2 blockers, and they couldn't get Jamar Chase down. Juan Thornhill dove for the legs instead of going and trying to be physical with Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
You can't afford to do that against the Broncos because that's kind of what their passing game has been reduced to this year. Russell Wilson getting the ball out quick to the perimeter. A lot of running back making catches. The wide receiver group for Denver with no Cortland Sutton, he's confirmed out for Sunday. It's Jerry Jeudy on one wheel, Kendall Hinton, and then a bunch of dudes you've never heard of, and some tight ends. And they love to throw quick to the tight ends. They love to throw screens to the running backs and tight ends. So you're going to be opportunities to bring those guys down in the open field. You got to do it. You got to bring your hard hat. And I would suspect that the week after the defense had the showing that they did against Cincinnati, that they'll come ready to play and ready to make those tackles this week.
And also, let's be fair, if it wasn't for the fact that he had to play quarterback 2 years ago, would we know who Kendall Hinton was either?
No.
No. He's also effectively a nobody who just happens to have some gloves and a jersey in Canton because he had to start when Drew Lock and everybody else had COVID.
I think he is like 4th in the league when it comes to most receiving yards without a touchdown this year. So he's got that going for him.
Oh, that's nice.
Deontay Johnson, by the way, leads the league for Pittsburgh.
Do you know? I don't remember if it's receiving yards or total receptions. But you know Eric Bieniemy is like all-time number 1 in NFL history. I think it's most receptions without a touchdown.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think it's receptions, not receiving yards without a touchdown. There's a fun fact for you about Eric Bieniemy. All right, Big Chief pick. Who you got?
Big Chief for me, I'm going with Isaiah Pacheco because
I like this one a lot.
The red zone is going to be a factor in this game. If Denver scores touchdowns, or rather if Kansas City scores touchdowns in the red zone, Denver can't keep up because they can't score. So the hope for Denver to stay in this game is to force the Chiefs to kick a lot of field goals. The Chiefs, meanwhile, we saw how they treated the Rams, and I kind of think they'll treat this game pretty similarly in the red zone, although I don't know necessarily that they should. I think they're going to try and win in the red zone with the running game. especially if they get into goal-to-go situations. So Isaiah Pacheco had a touchdown last week. I think he's got another one in him this week. And I think in the second half, it will be Pacheco who carries a major load with the Chiefs holding a comfortable lead. And I like him to try and salt the game away, him and Jerick McKinnon in that regard. But I think Pacheco will be a bigger red zone vector this week.
I am sort of cheating. I'm taking the offensive line for my pick this week. Joe Tooney is a big one guy. He's going to be back in the rotation. He obviously makes a humongous difference for the Chiefs up front. But just keep those pass rushers and the schemed up pass rush at bay as much as possible. Blitz pickup, throw Jerick McKinnon in there. Blitz pickup, things like that. As long as you keep Patrick Mahomes relatively clean, the Chiefs should have very little problem overall in this game. I think a bunch of different weapons have an opportunity to break out like you listed off. So I think all you have to do, keep him upright. You're going to be just fine. I've got the Chiefs winning 24-10. I do think the Broncos are going to slow down the Chiefs a little bit. The Broncos have a better defense than the Rams do. And the Rams held the Chiefs 26 points. So I'll go 24 for the Chiefs, 10 for the Broncos. That's a Chiefs win outright. The Chiefs cover a 9.5-point spread, but I do have them going way under the total of 43.5 points.
I'm going with the meme score for the Broncos. 16 points seems to be all they're allowed to score. They've only cracked that barrier twice this year. So I'll say 16 points for the Broncos. I'll say that at home in a rivalry game, they find a little bit more offense than they've been able to find the last couple of weeks. I will give the Chiefs 27, 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 27-16 Chiefs. That is a Chiefs win, a Chiefs cover, and that is under the 43.5 total, but only just.
Let us know your predictions for Sunday's game on the Go Tires text line, 785-272-9429. You can drop them in the YouTube comments as well. And we'll preview the game even further coming up later on this hour with Matt Derrick. Right now, though, we've got to take a break. We'll play Change My Mind next on 580 Sports Talk.
Dan here with you.
Quick round to change my mind before we get to our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Cheese Insider with Matt Derrick.
Change my mind, Dan. Lionel Messi is the greatest soccer player of all time.
As we speak, Messi's Argentina are in an extra time with the Netherlands after the Netherlands scored in the 10th minute of added time at the end of regulation in their semifinal today. That match is 2-2. They play in the 108th minute. Could be some penalty kicks on the way to decide that one. Messi's certainly the best I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
My tastes run more towards Messi than Cristiano Ronaldo, which his contemporary, of course, also very much in that debate. I would say he is the best for scoring, for playmaking, for innovating. I would put him at the top of the list for me. Yeah, I would.
Where does Pele rank?
Pele's got to be top 2 or 3.
Like, I just don't know how. I know Jake was talking about this earlier, and Jake walked by my desk and said, "Hey, is Pele the best player ever?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Like, he scored so many goals, but he never really got to play against the level of competition that Messi did or Ronaldo did. He played most of his career in Brazil, which obviously they had a lot of talent in Brazil, but it's not quite like playing in European club soccer today. The talent level that you face to go up against, the stakes of each match, things like that. The Mount Rushmore is pretty obviously Messi, Ronaldo, Pele, and Diego Maradona. Like, that's the Mount Rushmore.
Are any other current players going?
Like, is Neymar ever going to be in the discussion? Or
Mbappe?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
If they are able to sustain their greatness in the ways that Messi and Ronaldo were able to for as long as they have, yeah, they'll be in that discussion someday.
Okay. The French team is my preferred international non-U.S. team.
Okay.
So a big Mbappe guy.
I'm not really a bandwagon hopper when it comes to when it comes to the World Cup. Just some wild action today. Brazil went out, lost on penalty kicks to Croatia. Anyway, changed my mind today, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, because this is starting to gain some traction. There's a big story on Football Outsiders about it today. Changed my mind. Justin Herbert's not an elite quarterback.
All right. So he is not an elite quarterback?
Not in the elite class of quarterback.
I think I agree with that, though. Like, I don't think... And I understand he's in a bad system. I understand he's had bad coaching for the 3 years of his career so far. I really do understand that. But great quarterbacks have generally been able to overcome certain things like bad coaching. Like, Patrick Mahomes is in the elite tier. Josh Allen is in that tier, although, Mahomes goes above him. I think Burrow has firmly ascended certainly into that tier. I don't think that Herbert is. He's never won anything. He's never been to the playoffs. They very well might not go again this year, or they're barely going to sneak in.
He's been just about a bang average quarterback by most numbers and most metrics this season. Certainly we see a quarterback with elite tools on display. But there have been a lot of guys with big arms. Jeff George had a great arm.
Like, I get...
Nobody ever thought he was elite.
I get that it's flashy. I get that he's got the look and all of that. And, football is more than just what's in the metrics, on the spreadsheets and all that. And the basic stats this year say he's very average. A lot of the advanced numbers say, no. Trust me, he's very good. And I think he's really good. But also, you can be Mr. On paper all you want, but at some point you got to put the pads on and you got to go win important games, and they're not good. Like, they're a very mediocre team, and I understand there's other problems there, but great players have overcome that. Like, you want to talk about bad coaching? Joe Burrow's coach is Zach Taylor, okay?
Right.
Who is not exactly a brain genius of coaching. So, no, I don't know if I can argue that. He's got elite tools, you're right, but I got to put it together.
And could he get there one day? I would say it's more likely than not that he does, but he's not there yet. And I think we were in a hurry to crown him. We, the football-watching public, were in a hurry to make him the next big thing, including a lot of people that were eager to prop him up as
a foil to Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, exactly. That he's just not there yet, production-wise. He's not there yet winning wise, and he may not be there yet. In the sense of translating his elite tools to be an elite player.
I think he is closer to true greatness than he is to mediocre. I do think he's ascending that way. He has more in common with the Allens and the Burrows than he does, like, I don't know, shoot Derek Carr.
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. Even more so, like, when has Carr ever made you say, wow, what a throw?
Usually if Devontae Adams is making the catch on the other end.
Pretty much, exactly. Whereas Herbert, you do see, oh my God, how did he make that throw? He had one of those touchdowns this week.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of, at some point, you got to win. That is always going to be important. You do have to win. We have to take a break. Matt Derrick will join us next, though, on 580 Sports Talk.
His name is Matt.
Are you ready?
My name is Matt.
Let's go.
Let's go to Kansas City, where we talk to Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. Joins us every single Friday for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick. And of course, you can go check out all of his phenomenal work covering the Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. But before we get to the Chiefs and Broncos, Matt, I've got to ask you, how excited are you for the return of the Border War coming tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be at both the last game in Columbia between KU and MU, which was an absolute classic, and loved. I was at the exhibition game at the T-Mobile Center a few years ago, and that was also a wonderful game, even though it wasn't much of a contest. So yeah, I mean, it's great when these two teams get back together. So I'm all jazzed. I don't care if Mizzou wins or loses, and frankly, I expect Mizzou to lose, but I'm just excited it's happening. It's going to be a lot of fun.
See, being at the game at T-Mobile Center a few years ago, that's almost like did it really happen kind of thing. That had Billy Preston for KU and Michael Porter Jr. for Missouri. Two guys who were more myth than actual college basketball players.
3 games of college basketball between those two guys?
Yeah, so that's one you got to love forever, Matt.
Yeah, that was an odd one. You're right. I mean, it is kind of like this. Gosh, that's kind of like an alternate reality simulation of an MUKU game.
Well, hopefully it is going to be fun. I think KU's only favored by 3.5 points. I'm sure it's going to be a good one. I know Missouri is as good as it has been in several years now. Probably since my quarter junior year, in fact. So hopefully we can all be civil about the game coming up tomorrow, and I'll have plenty of fun with the border war. But Matt, I do want to get to the Kansas City Chiefs. One question before Chiefs Broncos, though. I know it's been a few days, almost a week at this point, but what is it about the Cincinnati Bengals that always gets the Chiefs? Why is it that the Chiefs have not been able to get over the hump against that one team in particular?
That's a great question, and if the Chiefs knew the answer, they'd have figured it out. But I mean, I think it's a lot of little things. I mean, one, offensively, the Bengals are just, I think, built to take advantage of the Chiefs. I mean, they got those big receivers, and that's something that, the Chiefs are trying to invest in bigger, physical, stronger corners. We talked about it, but I just don't know if they're quite there yet. How the Chiefs don't get Joe Burrow on the ground while every other team in the league seems to be able to, I don't know. And maybe it is. I've had plenty of people this week suggest that it's just mental, that the Chiefs just have it in their head that the Bengals have their number. I don't buy that, but I think these are just two absolutely well-matched teams that just have a styles that favor the Bengals right now. But at the same time, I mean, it's 3 straight games of 3-point games with 2 of them on the road. I mean, that to me is about the absolute definition of coin flip games that could go either way. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Chiefs eventually evened this out and if they got their own little streak going.
So is there anything then that stands out as a, man, we actually do have a bigger problem with the Chiefs in this regard after this game? Or is it simply, hey, you made a couple of mistakes, you turn those around, you end up winning the game? I know the pass rush has been a bit of a concern all year. It had gotten better. Obviously took a step back last Sunday. But, I mean, does that game change anything about the kind of perspective you have on where this Chiefs team can go?
I don't know if it changes anything. I think it just underscores exactly what you mentioned there, which is the pass rush is a question. And, a lot of the questions were, was this last streak of maybe 5 or 6 games where the Chiefs were doing a pretty good job of getting after quarterbacks, was that a sign of a trend in the right direction or an aberration? And I think it was probably in reality more of an aberration. I mean, I still think that the most likely outcome at the end of the season is that if we're talking about the Chiefs losing a Super Bowl or getting knocked out of the AFC Championship, I think we're going to be looking back on it and saying that this is a team that if it had gotten after the quarterback and had better play from their front four, they would have gone a little bit further. And I think we're probably still at that point.
Our guest is Matt Derrick, our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider. Matt's work appears at ChiefsDigest.com and on Twitter at Matt Derrick. And he appears here on 580 Sports Talk every Friday at this time. Matt, the narrative for the Chiefs offense coming out of that game is that once again, there was a turnover, a critical turnover, the Travis Kelce fumble. It's now 7 straight weeks that the Chiefs have turned the ball over at least once. How big a problem is that for the Chiefs right now, and how fixable is it?
I mean, to me, I don't think it's a huge problem. I mean, part of it is, hey, some of those have been legitimate turnovers. Patrick Mahomes will tell you he feels like he makes at least one mistake a game, and some of those mistakes have resulted in turnovers. That turnover that Travis Kelce had, I mean, that to me is just the definition of a fluke. I mean, that guy just usually doesn't turn over the ball in that kind of a situation. That's probably not going to happen again. That to me, that's football. I mean, it happens. Guys make a good play. Wasn't anything that Travis did, and I'm not sure there was anything he could have defended against it. I mean, you certainly want a guy to fight for yards in a situation like that. Some of the other turnovers, they can improve. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, Mahomes can do a better job. But, you're going to turn the football over. One turnover a game doesn't bother me. The reason why I think that the turnovers have been magnified, though, is just that just haven't been creating their own. I mean, almost every single Chiefs turnover this year stands out because there haven't been that many of them. If they were creating, a couple of turnovers every single game, you'd feel differently, I think, as they were winning the turnover margin. That's where it's the real problem. You can survive the turnovers, and you're going to, like I said, especially when Mahomes is your quarterback. I mean, hey, he's not a 20 interception guy, but he's going to have some balls that go the wrong way. It's just the what you live with. But to me, the bigger problem is just defensively, they're not creating enough turnovers, and that gets back probably to the pass rush and just getting the ball on the ground and making other offenses uncomfortable.
We did a deep dive on this show earlier this week about the Chiefs in their one possession games this year. They're 4-3 in those games, but in each of them, the offense has had opportunities in the fourth quarter to either expand on a lead or take the lead where they haven't done it. And there have been a variety of different reasons why that's been the case. Sometimes it's been turnovers, sometimes it's been a missed field goal. But do you feel like the offense needs to be a little bit more ruthless in the fourth quarter, that they're maybe missing a razor's edge that would allow them to maybe put a little bit less on the back of their defense in the fourth quarter of those tight games?
Yeah, that's a great question and a great observation. And, and I hate to sound like the game management guy that just says that's what you need to do is dial back Mahomes a little bit. But I guess I'm going to kind of sound like that, because I even think that's why it reared its ugly head against the Bengals on that last drive. The Bengals were bound and determined just not to let the Chiefs beat them deep, and they were taking everything away. On that final drive, if the Chiefs had wanted to move the ball down the field in 4 and 5 yard chunks, it was there. And the beginning of that drive was absolutely in that spot. Teams are just are so wary of giving up the big play against the Chiefs that when it gets to be crunch time, I think you consistently see that they go back to what works best, and that is dropping back and making sure that Mahomes doesn't beat you. And if the Chiefs are unwilling and unable to just move the ball down the field and run the ball against some light boxes, take the short passing game. I mean, on that final sequence of plays, I mean, on 1st and 10 and 3rd and 3, especially even to me the 3rd and 3, you need 3 yards. Why are you looking 15 yards downfield? I mean, to me, especially in a situation where you want to maybe draw some clock, it's my pet peeve, and I know I probably sound like just the most cautious, small-minded offensive guy in the world, but like every once in a while, you just need to eat your vegetables. And if the Chiefs did that a couple of times this year, I think they'd have another win or two.
The Denver Broncos host the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday, and to say it has been a lost year for the Broncos might be the understatement of the NFL season. What, if anything, is a concern or a possible red flag about this matchup for the Chiefs, given that the Broncos have struggled so mightily, but it's still a rivalry, still a division game, still one the Chiefs need to win. They've got a chance, in fact, to clinch the West with a win on Sunday. What, if anything, is a tough thing about this matchup for you for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, you're still, regardless of what the Broncos are, you're still in a position where this can make their season. This can make guys feel that, it was all worth it, if they can knock off the Chiefs and win that kind of big game. It's their Super Bowl to a degree. And even though rivalries may not seem as much, I mean, those are pros on the other side. So there's a lot of pride there. I mean, obviously, I don't think the Chiefs are going to disrespect or respect the Broncos. I think they're going to show up. But, as far as what's on the field, to me, it's the Broncos defense. They still have pieces. They still play quality football. The reason that they have been in so many close games this year is because of that defense. They can slow you down. And we've seen it. I mean, they've given the Chiefs some tough fights before. Last year's a pretty good example. I mean, if it wasn't for the Chiefs defense bailing them out in a couple of spots, they might have fallen to the Broncos last year. So to me, that's the big thing. You have to be cautious and respectful of that Broncos defense. Be careful with the football. Don't turn it over. Maximize your scoring opportunities, because that's the side of the football that you have to worry about against Denver.
Matt Derrick is joining us, Chiefs beat writer over at ChiefsDigest.com. That's where you can find all of his tremendous work. You can also follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick. He joins us for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider every single Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, what part of that Denver defense concerns you the most?
I mean, to me, it's probably just the overall pass. You can run the ball a little bit on Denver. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's just, hey, do the Chiefs have the run game that can do that? I don't know. But Denver's a much better team against pass, and it's because they got a couple of pieces. I mean, Patrick Surtain's one of the best corners in the league. They've got a pass rush. They can make you uncomfortable, even though they don't have Bradley Chubb and Von Miller anymore. There are still pieces there. I mean, there's still some elements. So, to me, especially with the way that the Chiefs have been playing of late, it's about protecting Patrick Mahomes up front just to make sure that he's got time to throw, he's not harassed, he's not feeling pressure. because if you do, that Broncos secondary can make some plays. So to me, this is a big game for the offensive line. They need to be able to control the pace and the tempo up front, create some holes for the ground game, run the football effectively, protect Mahomes, which they didn't do last week against the Bengals. You do that, and I think you can handle the Broncos defense. That's to me the teeth of it. I mean, if you can throw the football against the Broncos, you're going to have a good day, because again, at the run, like I said, I mean, there's opportunities there. I'm not sure if the Chiefs can necessarily do that as well as some other teams have, but if you're able to protect Mahomes and allow him time and don't turn the football over, you're going to be okay.
In terms of the offensive line, how important is it to, and I believe it's almost for certain that Joe Thuney will be back, but how big of a deal is it to have him back for this game?
Yeah, I think it's really big, because, it's not that the Chiefs don't have a lot of faith in Nick Allegretti and everything, but, I think you're much more likely with Allegretti in there to leave Orlando Brown, on his own, a little bit of an island. I mean, you're going to, provide some support from the running backs and the tight ends as far as giving him a little bit of help out there. But, with Joe Thuney, that allows, if Thuney can shade himself a little bit more toward Orlando Brown's side, and Orlando only has to worry about the outside edge, I think that it makes his life a little bit easier. Having Thuney in that spot, I think, is just that effective. You don't have to do any double teams. Because obviously Thuney has Creed Humphrey on the other side of it. And I mean, that if those three guys can, play one-on-one matchups, I think that makes things a lot easier. So, to me, having Thuney there, I think definitely helps out Orlando, because I think it allows him to just focus more on the outside. He doesn't have to be cheating on the inside and being aware of guys getting by him on the inside, because Thuney's there to help out.
All right, Chiefs are favored by 9.5 points. That's a lot of points on the road in a rivalry game in the NFL. The Chiefs are obviously the better team by quite some distance. Do you think they can cover 9.5 points?
I mean, I think they should. That is a big number. So I'm always wary of anything over a touchdown, like betting it. But honestly, I mean, I expected the Chiefs to be double-digit favorites. So even 9.5 would be a little under what I expected. I think they will cover. I mean, I do think this is a multiple score game, as even though the Broncos have played so many tight games, just not sure they can slow down the Chiefs offense, but I'm more, concerned. I just don't know if the Broncos can score anything. I think the Chiefs win, and I'm going, to me, it's going to be a lot like that game a few years ago in 2019, Chiefs and Bears. To me, it's like a very similar type of team. Good defense, not a lot of offense. Chiefs just want to win. So I'm going with the Chiefs 24-9.
24-9. Okay, I feel even better about my prediction, because I had 24-10, but 9 is a much funnier score, so I prefer yours.
There you go. We're right in the same ballpark, my friend.
9 points scored by an NFL team for a second straight week is unbelievably funny, and I really hope that happens now. Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs better than absolutely anybody else over at ChiefsDigest.com. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Derrick, and he joins us every Friday, bottom of the 3 o'clock hour, for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. Matt, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it as always. Enjoy the game with the Broncos on Sunday, and enjoy the border war coming up tomorrow.
Absolutely. Hope everybody enjoys the border war tomorrow. It should be a good one.
We absolutely will. That is Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. Awesome insight into the Chiefs, as always. Appreciate Matt taking some time for us. And that'll take us to the top of the hour.
I had forgotten that Chiefs-Bears game from the Super Bowl year.
Yeah.
26-3 was the final in that one.
Hell yeah.
That was in prime time.
Matt Nagy getting flashbacks.
They kept Mitchell Trubisky in prime time, but not Russell Wilson.
Let that wash over you. Oh, my Lord. We got to take a break here for our national and local news at the top of the hour. When we come back, we'll talk a little border war, KU versus Mizzou. There's only one FBS college football game this weekend. It's Army-Navy. So we've got college basketball on the brain. We've got that. What is wrong with you and more next hour on 580 Sports Talk.
So what do you see in your
now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming away. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you.
Thank you so much for spending some of your afternoon with us. Appreciate Matt Derrick as well joining us the last hour for our Herman Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. Coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour of the show, we will get you a little bit of a look ahead to KU Mizzou, the border war coming back. Border showdown. Shut up. Border war. I don't want to hear any of that. Also, Hy-Vee ain't paying me a dime. So,
yeah,
just the border war.
If Hy-Vee would like to pay either of us a dime or more to refer to it as the Hy-Vee Border Showdown presented by Hy-Vee, we'll do it.
Absolutely.
We'll do it. We got a price.
It's like the Carrier Dome.
Right.
JIP wireless or whatever.
No, Carrier Dome.
Yes.
Are you paying me to call it that? No.
You know how long it took me to realize it was named for the air conditioning people?
How long did it take you?
A very long time. Very, very long time.
Oh my gosh.
We'll talk about the border war coming up here in a bit. We've got What Is Wrong With You. Plus, Dan's going to give you a preview of the NFL weekend ahead.
I will be out of here just after the bottom of the hour because we've got baseball hoops coming up tonight from the Charger Dome at Topeka West. It is the Topeka West Chargers taking on the Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds.
Girls game first at 5:45. The boys game will follow after that. Pre-game begins at 5:30. It's all right here on 580 WIBW with yours truly and the coach, Larry Latimer. Coming up here in just a moment, though, I don't just want to get to the border war. I also do want to get to our picks for the week, the 580 Sports Talk picks, because we don't have college football this weekend except for one game. Usually we would do our full Big 12 picks. We are now only doing one game this week, but we did all agree to pick Army-Navy. So we're doing the same rules as usual for our picks competition. It has to be one college game, one NFL game for 3 total, at least one of each, and then at least one spread and at least one total with 3 total picks each. But we all agreed we'll all pick Army-Navy and then do 2 NFL games along with it. An update on our football picks competition, Dan still solidly in first place. Now at 24-15 for the year. Very, very impressive. I have leapt into second place 3 games back at 21-18. Respectable. Fulton is 3 games behind me at 18-21, and Jake is a game and a half all the way in the back at 16-22-1. Dan, what were your picks for this week to try to maintain that 3-game edge?
So in the Army-Navy game, I'm going with the under 32.5 points. That is such a minuscule number for an over-under, and I am going with the under because that game always hits the under. So I'm the under in the Army-Navy game. I like the Jets to cover 10 against the Bills, and for the 7th consecutive week, I've got the under in the Broncos game. Yes, I know they play the Chiefs. I still have the under in the Broncos game. The total's 43.5. I've got the under 43.5.
I picked the under just a few minutes ago, too, or an hour ago now or so, I guess. But, yeah, I like the under of that one as well. My picks, I'm with you on the Army-Navy under because it's been 16 years in a row.
16 straight years. This streak is old enough to drive.
This is the lowest number, though, that it has gotten to. It has not been this low at any point. It opened at 34.5. It has gone all the way down to 32.5. I'm still taking the under. Who am I to bet against history?
Right.
Why should I be the one to bet against history? So I'm not going to do that. So I'm also on the Army-Navy under. So I can't catch you this week. You will be in first place no matter what at the end of the week on your own.
That was not strategic, but it ended up being kind of strategic.
It ends up working out for you.
Yeah.
I've got 2. So that's my total for the week. My spreads, I've got the Browns plus 5.5 against the Bengals. The Bengals coming off a massive win. They're playing really well.
Could be a letdown spot.
They're 3. Joe Burrow in his career is undefeated against the Chiefs. He is winless against the Cleveland Browns.
That's also true.
That game will be in Cincinnati, but I think the Browns keep it close. So I've got Browns plus 5.5, although I hate picking the nasty man. I hate that so much. Also, 49ers at home minus 3.5 against the Buccaneers. I'm going to take the 49ers in that one. Even while they're riding the Brockett ship, I don't know what the Bucs offense is going to do against that defense. Like nothing all game long. They're going to be in hell in that game. So I will take San Francisco there. To see all of our picks, myself, Dan, Jake, Fulton, head over to 580WIBW.com. It's the top post on the website right now. By the way, speaking of football, I'm not sure who texted this in, which of our texters texted in, but a few weeks ago, well, more than a few weeks, a couple months ago now, we had someone text in and say we should do a Sports on 580 Manning cast. That was texted in again during Mic'd Up today.
Mm-hmm.
Someone mentioned that and actually casted the show for us and said, you and Jake were left out here. I was casted as Peyton Manning and Fulton as Eli, which I find very funny.
That is very funny.
I'm flattered personally to be the Peyton of
no
of
kidding.
the duo.
Yeah, that's a compliment.
We still could do it. We could find a game. There's some crappy games.
Yeah,
left.
they got the Texans next week. I mean, that would be
on Monday Night Football.
No, that's not Monday night.
Oh, I thought that was the Chiefs. You mean? Oh,
yes.
I was thinking, oh my God, the Mannings are doing a Texans game.
No,
the Chiefs do have the Texans next week. Yeah, we can make that happen.
We might have to.
We'd have to call Matt Verderham because Matt always has the best takes on bad football. Like, Matt, jump on with us in the third quarter. Let us know your thoughts on the Houston Texans. You might just skip that game.
The Texans are down their 2 starting receivers this week, Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins. Watch them be healthy in time for the Chiefs game.
Oh, a counterpoint. We don't even want to be a part of this blowout. Like, I'm not even feeling this vibe. I don't even want to be a part of that.
Yeah. My neck. My back. My neck and my back.
So that is a little peek ahead to the NFL and single game of the college football weekend. We'll also find a Heisman winner this weekend.
Yes, we will.
You picking Caleb Williams?
It will be Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I think so too. Betting markets kind of determined that's where it was going to be several weeks ago at this point. As for college basketball this weekend, it's the border war. It's KU. It's Missouri. This is the best Missouri has been since the 17-18 season with Michael Porter Jr. there. And he barely even played that entire season because he was so injured. They were good that year. Unfortunately for them, they had an idiot head coach who was no good at his job in Quanzo Martin. Quanzo Martin's incredible to me. He's had 3 power conference head coaching jobs, 3 of them. Tennessee, Cal, Mizzou. Every single job, all 3 of them, he has left worse than when he found it.
That's factual.
Every one of them. No tournament wins at any of them. That's incredible.
People say a lot of really nice things about Quanzo Martin, and they may all be true. I don't know him personally, but the facts are the facts.
Yeah.
Like, he has gotten 3 swings at Power 5 jobs, which is not something that everybody gets. There aren't a long list of people that get that many different chances. And yeah, every one of those programs when he left was in a worse spot.
It's really incredible to think about. Funny, too. I think Dennis Gates is a much smarter coach. I think he has a clue. Now, he's also one of the guys who said, I want the NCAA tournament to double in size, which doesn't instill a lot of confidence that he thinks his team is any good. But they're clearly playing better. They have not played an especially hard schedule to this point, but Missouri is 9-0, and they are a top 50 team in the Ken Pomeroy numbers. In fact, they are number 49. No, they actually slipped a spot, so they're 50 now. But they're 9-0, and according to Ken Pom, they've got the 12th best offense in the country.
Yeah, they are scoring like crazy. You look at their box scores. I think they've got 5 guys averaging in double figures. They are scoring the crap out of the basketball. The thing about it is they don't appear to be terribly proficient at keeping the other team from scoring the basketball.
No.
Here are the scores in the games that count. This is the points allowed. 91 to Southern Indiana, 85 to Penn, 53 to Lindenwood, MIAA alumni, Lindenwood, 180 against SIU Edwardsville. I'm sorry, did I say 180?
105 to
105 to 80 was the score. Yeah, they allowed 80 points. Still not good. 62 against Mississippi Valley State, 51 against Coastal Carolina, 69 against Houston Christian, 84 against Wichita State, 89 against SEMO.
Ooh.
They are giving up some big numbers. Now, it's a up-tempo and probably crowd-pleasing brand of basketball. I'm sure this is a lot more fun for Mizzou fans to watch than what their program was under Quanzo Martin. But at the end of the day, this is a veteran team with some scorers, with some talented wing guys, with some good shooters. To me, they're not built in the way that you need to be built to challenge Kansas. Which is not to say that they can't beat Kansas, but like to match up really well against Kansas, they don't have the size. They've got 2 bigs, but they never play. They got a 6'10" kid out of Garden City Community College. They got a 7'2" kid, and they don't play hardly. So they're not going to be the kind of team that makes it really hard for KU to score at the rim. They're not going to be the kind of team that gets a lot of baskets in the post, that takes advantage of KU playing small. So I think in this matchup, KU can play what are its best lineups, which right now are those small ball lineups, and be in really good shape matchup-wise.
I think the other thing that certainly is going to help KU, and we've got a text in from the 785 that says Mizzou had 0 offense last year, so it's a great turnaround no matter how many points are given up. Yeah, they're certainly more competitive than they've been in the last couple of years. There's no doubt about that. But again, like Wichita State is a bad team. They're not good. And you won by 4 and gave up 84 points. You probably shouldn't be giving up 89 points to Southeast Missouri State. KU's got dudes. KU is by miles and miles and miles the best team that they have faced this year. Who's the second best after this weekend?
Might be Wichita State. I don't know what the Ken Palm says, but it might be Wichita State.
Wichita State, for what it's worth in the Ken Palm numbers, is 87th in the country, and they have the 152nd ranked offense. Not especially good.
And scored 84 points, and were in control of that game until Mizzou made a real big rally late to kind of steal it, because that's what teams do against Isaac Brown's Wichita State Shockers. Unfortunately, for the Shockers, is they overtake them late because the Shockers can't close.
The big benefit that KU is getting back in this game is it sounds like Bobby Pettiford is going to play. Getting another solid perimeter defender is, I think, going to be important in this game. You know, DeJuan Harris is going to do what DeJuan Harris does. Kevin McCullough, stud on defense. Getting back Bobby Pettiford to as many guys as you can get to slow down that Missouri fast-paced offense, obviously going to be crucial in this game. I actually relatively like the KU defensive matchup here. Essentially, to me, this comes down to, can KU avoid the really cold streak? It's not an especially good shooting KU team. I think we know that to this point. Grady Dick is obviously a supremely talented shooter and creative scorer of the basketball. But this is not the 2018 team. This is not even last year's team for KU, I think, in terms of three-point shooting. When you had Brown and Abaji and Wilson. Now, Wilson's been shooting it pretty well so far this season. I don't think you'd be disappointed in the numbers he's put up. Obviously, you've got Grady Dick. Kevin McCullough's had his moments. Yesufu has had a couple moments.
And Mizzou not proficient guarding the three-point arc. They're allowing opponents to shoot 36% from downtown, which is a big part of the reason why they've given up so many eyebrow-raising point totals to less than stellar offenses this year. If they're not disciplined and they don't defend the three-point line against KU is not great shakes as you're laying out behind the three-point arc, but they're good enough to make you pay.
Mm-hmm. No, that's absolutely the case. And as long as you avoid the super cold stretch, I think KU is going to be they'll be just fine offense, because we also know that KU really good in transition. Running the floor, this team has a lot of team speed. And we've heard the quote, Michael Swain repeated it to us a few weeks ago. Bill Self has brought it up, that it's about turning speed into something productive instead of just being fast out there. KU in transition is really good. When you look at Wilson, Grady Dick, again, being a creative scorer. I actually like Bobby Pettiford and Joe Yesufu, both off the bench in the transition game as well. So I think KU has got enough firepower to win this game. You just have to avoid those classic pitfalls. It is a good matchup, though, not having a true big man who gets a lot of run for Missouri, because then you could either argue, well, maybe if Ernest Uday comes in and he's playing well, or Zuby Ejiofor is playing well, that's a big advantage, because what is Mizzou going to do? They're going to throw in guys who they would never otherwise play, or just play at a mismatch. Obviously, that plays into KU's hands. Or alternately, KJ Adams, you want him on the floor more often. Even if he's not a great offensive threat and he's certainly not going to shoot the ball, you want him out there playing defense and hustling all over the court, because that's really his biggest strength. So I like KU to win this game. I do think the Jayhawks have enough. Missouri's going to make it competitive. The crowd's going to be nuts. I would argue, and this is not a slight to KU fans, this is not a slight to Allen Fieldhouse, because you know me, I would not do that. I would argue, though, Missouri fans are probably going to be even more tuned up for this game than KU fans were last year.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Certainly no less.
There are a lot of reasons for that, but I think maybe the main reason is that they got embarrassed at Allen Fieldhouse last year. I mean, that was an embarrassing performance for Missouri, and it left a mark. And there aren't a lot of guys back from that team, mind you. Kobe Brown, and I don't even know who else really that jumps to the top of my head. Kobe Brown is kind of the main guy who is actually back from last year. Seen there are a couple others, but this is a very transfer heavy team this year. If you look at the roster, they got a whole bunch of transfers.
Yeah, they do. In fact, Kobe Brown last year led Mizzou in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. There's a reason they brought him back. By the way, you remember who was the starting guard for Mizzou last year? Former K-Stater.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, the kid from Chicago, right?
Yeah, I know you've got the first letter.
Oh, D.
You're so close.
Dejuan Gordon.
I
got it.
He has since transferred out.
Yeah, he's on school number 3. But no, they brought in a bunch of transfers who are like grad students. Demoy Hodge has been their leading scorer this year. So they brought in some guys who can play. No question. The talent level is higher. The offensive ability is much higher. But this is a largely new team. So most of these guys weren't around to get punked at Allen Fieldhouse last year. But the fans remember.
Oh, yeah.
The fans remember. And so, yeah, that's going to be a charged atmosphere at the Page Sports Arena. No question.
This game will always matter more to the people who, like, have lived around it or who have cared about it for a long, like last year, Christian Brown was not going to let KU lose that game. Now, they ended up winning by 1 million, but had it been close, Brown was not going to let that game go the wrong way. I don't know what Grady Dick's feelings on it are, being younger and being a Wichita guy, but, like, I think this game matters to DeJuan Harris, being from Columbia. He had a quote this week. He spoke to the media where he said, I was told my whole life growing up that Kansas is the bad guys. Then I got to high school and I realized I'd rather play there, actually. I don't think Mizzou even offered him, in fact. So I would imagine this game is going to mean something pretty special to DeJuan Harris. But, yeah, those Mizzou fans, they're going to be ready for that. It's going to be a great basketball atmosphere, and it is going to be extremely, extremely hostile. Another texter who chimes in, and I'm going to take a guess that our texter is a Missouri fan. They've texted in a couple times, and shout out. Appreciate you joining the show with us. Mentioning as well that, what was the name here that you sent us?
Noah Carter.
Noah Carter. Yeah. Noah Carter can play. Carter on the year, for those who are unfamiliar with his game, 12.2 points, 5 boards a game, shooting 52% from the floor.
36% from deep, and at 6'6", you wonder if that might be the matchup for Jalen Wilson at the 4.
Yeah, I would think so. That feels like the right matchup there. You do make the good point, though, that with 5 guys who all score in double figures, you're going to have to be careful with the matchups here. Now, the nice thing for KU is they've got plenty of guys who are good at on-ball defense, but that does make it harder to defend when you've got a bunch of different guys who all have the ability to go off.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they match up to start the game. I would not be one bit surprised, though, if the matchups to start the game look nothing like they do at the end of the game.
Yeah, that would be unsurprising.
KU minus 3.5 on the road. You like them?
I do. I think they'll win. I think Missouri will be in touch throughout. I don't think this is a game that Kansas can take a big lead, put it in cruise control. I expect this to be pretty close. Lots of swings, maybe some free throws late to really put it out of reach. I think KU wins by about 7 or 8.
That sounds about right.
It'll be a good test for them. I think it's likelier that they win big, they light it up from 3, and maybe they win by 10 or 15 than it is that Mizzou wins. I don't think Missouri's ready for this level up in competition. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think they present the kind of matchup problems you need to present KU to get an edge on them.
I agree. And it's going to be something of a culture shock for Missouri because they've played a very weak schedule so far. And that's not their fault. You've got to play the games that are in front of you, and they have, and it's a credit to them for doing that. But this is going to be a massive step up in terms of caliber of competition.
And I hope it is a good game because, I mean, the blowout last year was fun for KU fans.
Yes, it was.
But it's a lot more intriguing to the neutrals like yours truly if we get a spirited rivalry game.
This is a perfect way to cap it off from our texter of the 785, the Mizzou supporter, who says, I bet Mizzou starts strong, but probably loses by 20 again, LOL. That is also certainly possible.
Hey, look, if they're giving up in the 70s and 80s to teams like Penn and SIUE, like Kansas should have no problem getting into the 80s.
I would think it's going to spell a lot of issues for KU if they cannot score plenty in this game. That to me would present a bigger concern for KU than it would, I think, like confidence in Missouri is really good. That would make me think, okay, something is very wrong with this offense.
Yeah.
I'm not at that point. I do think KU is going to end up winning, but that would certainly be a big concern. We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk, but when we come back on the other side of this timeout, we'll get to our weekly championship and what is wrong with you. It is time to find our weekly winner in What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. Our current winner for the week is the insane Olive Garden manager from Overland Park who was sick of people calling out of work, saying, if you're sick, come prove it to us. If your dog died, you got to bring him in and prove it. You think I want to be here and not hanging out with my husband? Well, guess what? You've got plenty of time to hang out with your husband now because you got fired. 2 news stories today, though. Dan, would you like to go first?
I would like you to go first.
I will go first then. All right. We've got a pretty quick one here from Tampa, Florida, where the Hernando County Sheriff's Office said it arrested an arsonist who allegedly set a patrol car on fire in Spring Hill, Florida on Wednesday, and then returned to the scene of the crime and admitted to it. According to deputies, Anthony Tarduno set a marked Hernando County patrol vehicle on fire in the area of Northcliffe Boulevard and Portillo Road just before 5 p.m. Wednesday. The fire also damaged a vehicle next to it. Firefighters responded and quickly put out the flames. Investigators noticed most of the damage was near the gas tank. Under the gas tank was trash and other items that were used to set the car ablaze. While detectives were at the scene investigating, they said Tarduno approached them and took responsibility for it. He was then taken into custody. He told detectives he was intoxicated and, quote, does stupid things when he gets drunk.
I sort of in a weird way admire his honesty.
He said he left a bar on Northcliffe Boulevard, saw the patrol car, and decided to light it on fire. Now, he did tell the sheriff's office that he did not target the vehicle because it was a patrol car, and that any car that had been parked there would have been set on fire. Well, that's something. He said he took a bag of garbage out of a dumpster, put it under the car, and used a lighter to set it on fire, then went back to the bar. He started to feel bad and decided to confess. He told deputies he's a professional arsonist with a history of similar offenses. Records show he was arrested for arson in 2012 and also for indecent exposure in 2011. He's facing 2 counts of arson.
He should drink less, first of all.
Yeah, you think?
First of all. Second of all, yeah, I don't know that you want to be a professional arsonist. I don't know that that's a career path worth aspiring to.
I'm not sure that's profitable. I don't know how you feed a family on arson.
Feeding a family on being a professional arsonist?
Yeah, I can't imagine there's much money in that game.
Boy, you know who used to do that? Man, there's a great joke here, and there's like thousands of terrible relief pitchers like running through my head. You know who got paid pretty handsomely to be a professional arsonist? Jake McGee for 3 years in Colorado.
Any number of Royals.
Wade Davis in 2019.
Oh.
I hate to do it, Wade.
What do you have for today?
Anyway, we go to Los Angeles, where a 33-year-old man named Fontrell Baines has been sentenced to 77 months in federal prison for committing COVID-19 relief fraud. Authorities say Baines illegally obtained over $700,000 by exploiting pandemic unemployment benefits administered by the California Employment Development Department, or EDD, from July to September in 2020. The man submitted false applications using the names of third parties and identity theft victims, along with fake work histories. He included addresses in Beverly Hills and Koreatown to which he had access. The debit cards arrived preloaded with unemployment benefits obtained through 92 fraudulent claims. How did they catch him, you ask? He made a song about it. Fontrell Baines performed under the nom de plume Nuke Bizzle, and in 2020 released a song called EDD, as in Employment Development Department.
Dan, I have very bad news for you.
What's that?
This was featured in What Is Wrong With You in October of 2020.
Was it really?
It was.
Well, I wasn't around, okay?
No, that's not fair to you. You had mentioned earlier you had this great story, and I intentionally was like, I don't want to see it. I want to be surprised. I said, Nuke Bizzle sounds really familiar.
We did. We dug through the crates and we found him.
I did indeed find Nuke Bizzle. I feel bad. I should have let you finish the story.
2 years ago, we had this guy featured. It took 2 years to put him in prison.
See, it should be a lot simpler than that. We can spin this on someone else and say, what are the feds doing? I feel bad. I'm sorry.
He made a rap song about it. It's called EDD, which included the lyrics, "Changed my life, and I got to admit it, more money, I swear I didn't had in a minute. You mean to tell me I could just wait on an email and get certified for a 20? Damn, this here better than dealing. Turn me into a scammer quickly." Like, there's
a guest line on here. I did not remember this, in which another rapper adds, "You got to sell cocaine. I just file a claim."
I'm smart and you ain't.
I'm sorry. I should give credit. That second rapper, the featured artist is Fat Wizza.
Yes. Yeah, Fat Wizza said those things. No word on his status when it comes to his legal issues or not. But yeah, it's like that scene in The Wire where the New Day co-op gets together at the hotel, and Stringer Bell looks at the guy keeping minutes and says, "Is you taking notes on a criminal conspiracy? Are you rapping about a criminal conspiracy?"
Yeah, why would you admit to that? I don't know, man.
The song kind of knocks. I listened to it earlier today. It kind of goes.
Kind of a banger?
Yeah, it kind of is.
That's pretty funny.
6 years in prison for Nuke Bizzle. Maybe don't rap about your crimes.
Yeah, just keep that under wraps. Don't worry about making that a matter of, public information. I don't know, man.
Like, there are other things you can sing about.
Nuke Bizzle.
You could also maybe make oblique references to the things that you are doing to get money.
Yeah, maybe don't like hold up your debit cards on camera.
Yeah, like you can call yourself a scammer and things like that, and don't say, this is who I am defrauding. This is how I'm doing it. It's really easy.
Unbelievable.
This is how much money I made.
Unfortunately, I think we have to DQ it.
Yeah, we do.
I feel bad. I should have. I just wanted to be surprised by it.
No.
I was told it was a good
built
story.
it up. That's on me. I built it up.
All right. Well, by default, my story wins today. That does not beat the Olive Garden manager, though. Not even close.
No.
The insane Olive Garden manager, that is our winner in What Is Wrong With You. So she will advance to our end of the month at Tournament of Champions. We are getting really close to our yearly championship. We will find our yearly champion coming up in 3 weeks from today.
That's right, we will.
Yeah, the 30th of December. That'll be our final show of the calendar year 2022, and that is when we'll find our yearly champion for What Is Wrong With You. With that, we've got to take a break. I'm on my way to the Charger Dome for high school hoops tonight. Dan's got you the rest of the way. We're talking some NFL weekend preview action coming up next on 580 Sports Talk.
.440 on 580 Sports Talk. Welcome back in. It's a solo mission from here to the end. Brendan Dworzinski is off to call high school basketball tonight. 580 Preps game of the week, Shawnee Heights against Topeka West. We'll have coverage starting sometime in the 5 o'clock hour, 5:30-ish. So the 5 o'clock hour will be a bit truncated here on on the program this afternoon, but that is where Brendan will be. So it is yours truly holding it down for the rest of the show. You are, of course, invited and encouraged to interact with me here as we take it down the home stretch. You can hit us up on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429, or you can comment in the YouTube comments, youtube.com/@sportson580. That's the @ symbol, sportson580. That takes you right to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe. You can access all of our videos, watch them after the fact, or, of course, watch them live, like those of you who are doing so right now are doing. So we appreciate you however you're tuning in, whether you're listening online, 580wibw.com. If you're hearing us on your radio, you're hearing us on your smartphone, you're watching on YouTube, hi to you folks. Appreciate you tuning in, and we'll have a good rest of the program here. And we got plenty to get to, including the Blue Dot of Kansas headlines at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. Get you the final injury report, participation report for Broncos Chiefs. It's a promising one for the Chiefs. It is less promising for the Broncos, kind of like Sunday's game, really. But first, a look at the other NFL action this coming Sunday. The final bye week, I don't think anybody's off weeks 15 through 18. So there are 6 teams on byes. It's a bit of a shorter schedule than usual. And if you are within the sound of our voice here and you receive the Topeka local channels, or even the Wichita locals, I suppose, if you're hearing us out to the west in Kansas or the south, you will get only one game in the early window. It is a Fox doubleheader this week. Fox has the doubleheader locally. They have the national game of the week, which for some unknown reason is Tampa Bay and San Francisco. Well, there's known reason. It's Tom Brady, but not an awesome game, but that's the national game everybody gets. And with the Chiefs playing in that late window, that means we only get one early game. And if you are in the Topeka or Kansas City markets, you're going to get a good game, Eagles-Giants. If you are receiving the Wichita Fox station, you will not get a good game. You will get Houston and Dallas. Not only will you not get a good game, you will get the game with the highest point spread of the season to this point. The Cowboys are 17.5-point favorites against the Texans on Sunday. That is the largest spread of the season so far. The Texans are going back to Davis Mills at quarterback, but they are missing both of their starting wide receivers, Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins. Also, they're really bad. So Dallas, I think, probably covers. That is such a huge number. But Dallas probably covers that 17.5. I'm glad I won't have to watch that one. I'm glad I'll get to watch Philadelphia and the Giants, which should be a much better game. There are some rumors that it might be tough for Saquon Barkley to make it to Sunday, the star running back for the Giants, dealing with a neck injury that cropped up this week, and there is some uncertainty as to his status for Sunday. Obviously, if he can't go, it makes it that much more difficult for the Giants, who are already 7-point home underdogs against the Eagles. Should be noted, all spreads and totals in this segment, of course, courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook. Elsewhere in the early window, this is maybe the most fascinating spread of the week. The Minnesota Vikings, 10-2, are underdogs at Detroit. The Lions are favored by 1.5. That line opened with Minnesota, I believe, a 1-point favorite most places, and it jumped the fence in a hurry, and it got to as many as 2.5 points in favor of the Lions. Currently, the Lions are 1.5 favorites. That feels like bait. That feels like poison. The Vikings, yes, they're 10-2. They've won every single close game that they've been in. The Lions, on the flip side, are the Lions. But Detroit's got the ability, I think, to move the ball against that Minnesota offense. And I think they can win that game at home. For Minnesota, it's all about legitimacy at this point, right? They have to win to justify, well, not justify their existence. That's a little dramatic. They have to win to legitimize themselves. And I don't know how well that's working necessarily. It doesn't really feel like a lot of people take them seriously, and I don't take them seriously. 580 Sports Talk as a whole is not in the business of taking the Vikings seriously as Super Bowl contenders. The only thing they can do is win, maybe earn the 1 seed if the Eagles stumble toward the end of the year, and see how things shake out come January. But nobody seems to be buying the Vikings. And now nobody includes Vegas. But that's an interesting line, and that could be a fun game. The total on that game is 51.5, so it should be a lot of offense. A lot of offense and a close game. That's going to be a really entertaining one at Ford Field. Elsewhere in the early window, the noon Central Time kickoffs, Jets at Bills. Jets looking for a season series sweep and maybe trying to do the Chiefs a solid against the Bills. Jets are 10-point underdogs. I'm taking the Jets to cover that. I don't know that they're going to win, but I think their defense is good enough to cover a number that big, provided Mike White doesn't immediately turn into a pumpkin, which very possible. I know this is a diminished by injury Bills defense, but still putting a lot of faith in Mike White. And he's played okay the last 2 weeks. He was really good 2 weeks ago. He was all right last week. He gave the Jets a chance against the Vikings, but couldn't put together the game-winning drive. Still, I think he'll play well enough to cover a double-digit spread. Bills, of course, in the driver's seat, half-game lead with the head-to-head win over the Chiefs for the first seed in the AFC, the top seed. So that game, I'm sure, will have some interested eyeballs on it from Kansas City. Baltimore at Pittsburgh, man, this used to be can't miss every time these two teams played. This time around, I think you can miss it if you want. No Lamar Jackson for Baltimore. He's listed as doubtful. John Harbaugh says he's all but out. Means we get Tyler Huntley and Kenny Pickett in a possibly related development. It's a really small total for this game, 36.5. So the odds makers not expecting a lot of offense, and you shouldn't either if you turn on Ravens Steelers on Sunday. Cleveland and Cincinnati, the Browns are 5.5-point underdogs despite owning Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Burrow has not beaten the Browns in his career. And earlier this year, the Bengals were without Jamar Chase, but the Browns smacked the Bengals on Monday Night Football. That was in Cleveland. This game's in Cincinnati. Cleveland's offense looked really disjointed with the sex pest at quarterback last week, only managing 6 offensive points against Houston. I have a hard time believing they're going to get on track against the Bengals, but sometimes Chiefs fans know this all too well. Sometimes the team's just got your number, and there's a possibility maybe the Browns just have the Bengals number. If they're going to cover that 5.5 and win outright, I would think they need to get Nick Chubb real involved. He was not heavily involved last week. They didn't really get him going. They got to get him involved if they want to beat the Bengals, pull the upset. And again, people in Kansas City will have an eye on that one as the Bengals are suddenly a factor in the race for the top seed and home field advantage in the AFC. Jacksonville's at Tennessee. Tennessee is favored by 3.5. I don't have a lot to say about the AFC South. I got to be honest. The division that good football forgot. Tennessee should win that game, I think. You just don't know what you're getting from Jacksonville week in, week out. You can usually guess it's not going to be very good, but you just don't know what you're getting on a week in, week out basis. Tennessee, a little bit more of an identity. They got embarrassed last week by the Eagles. I think they'll bounce back, and I think they'll win that game. Then in your late window, in addition to the Broncos and the Chiefs, which again, Chiefs 9.5-point favorites. You have Tampa Bay, San Francisco. That's a game we'll all get to watch on Fox. San Francisco, a 3.5-point favorite. This is the first time since 2006 that Tom Brady has been an underdog against a rookie quarterback. First time since 2006. I'm trying to remember who the other rookie quarterback might have been that Brady would have been an underdog in going back to 2006. I'm going back to look at their schedule and trying to figure out what rookie quarterback might have had their back up against the wall that year. And for the life of me, I cannot pinpoint who that would have been on their schedule. I really don't know. Maybe it was in the playoffs. Maybe it was Would it have been Sanchez? No. Chad Pennington was still the quarterback in New York that year. So I don't know. A bit of trivia there for you if you can figure out who the last rookie quarterback to be favored against Tom Brady was. Not a big believer in Brock Purdy. I think Tampa Bay is going to win that game. I think they'll ride the momentum of their Thursday night win. Long week going up against Brock Purdy. Tampa Bay's defense still pretty good. I think Tampa Bay finds a way to win that game. I do not expect a lot of points. And incidentally, neither does Las Vegas. The total in that one, the second lowest of the week, 37.5. Sunday night, the exact opposite. I expect a lot of points and a lot of fun. The Dolphins and the Chargers, Tua versus Herbert. We talked about Justin Herbert a little bit in Change My Mind. He was my Change My Mind topic today in the 3 o'clock hour. And I am of the belief that right now, right this second as we're sitting here, Justin Herbert may have elite arm talent, as the saying goes, as the phrase goes. I don't think he's an elite quarterback right now. I don't think he's real high on the list of, if I have to go win a game with the fate of my team or humanity or whatever on the line, I think the list is pretty thick before you get to Justin Herbert. Just the proof is not there that he is a winning quarterback. A losing lifetime record suggests as much. And we have engaged in excuse making for Justin Herbert on this show. We have talked about his weapons have been banged up. Keenan Allen's missed a lot of this season. Mike Williams has missed a big chunk of this season. I think they've only been on the field together for something like 30 snaps. That's a problem. His offensive line has been dinged up. That's been an issue. Joe Lombardi, his offensive coordinator, I don't think is a great offensive play caller. And that's me being more polite than Brendan would be if he were still sitting across the way. So I don't think that's the problem either. But there are a lot of quarterbacks out there that maybe don't have perfect circumstances and still get it done on a week-in, week-out basis. And Herbert, with as big an arm as he hasn't yet proven that he can overcome imperfect circumstances. And you have to be able to do that to be an elite quarterback. Has Patrick Mahomes done that? Has he overcome when his top targets get hurt, when his offensive line disintegrated around him in 2020 and he still got to a Super Bowl? Yeah, he has. Justin Herbert hasn't done that yet. We had a texter earlier on the Big O Tires text line from the 785 that referred to him as kind of the new Phillip Rivers. Here's the thing. Phillip Rivers didn't have at all times the best luck around him, injury luck. He didn't have the best skill position talent around him. He still made it work. Those teams still won games. Justin Herbert didn't even go to the playoffs last year. And they're not going this year, it looks like, because I think Miami beats them on Sunday. So I think even calling him the new Phillip Rivers is a little generous. I think we got a ways to go on Justin Herbert. Now, he could very well go out and throw for 350 and win at home on Sunday night, make me look bad, but I just don't think he's earned the right to be called one of the game's elite quarterbacks just yet. Elite tools, but not an elite quarterback, not yet. That's the Sunday slate, and if any of those spreads or totals sounded tasty to you, now's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's free bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just sign up with my promo code Lucero. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, money lines, point spreads, player props, odds boosts throughout every day for the biggest games locally and nationally for chances of bigger paydays, and of course, the famous same-game parlay. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So sign up today with my promo code Lucero for your no-sweat first bet. That's Lucero. And make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You must be 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. Refund issued is non-withdrawable free bets. Expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. That's a wrap on the 4 o'clock hour. And we come back. We got the Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. We're getting you ready for the 580 Preps High School Hoops game of the week between Shawnee Heights and Topeka West. Stay with us. 5 o'clock hours next here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final hour. Well, final half hour-ish. We'll see how much time we have together, but it is the last of it for the day and the week here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero here with you, flying it solo with Brendan Dworzinski, all set to rock and roll at the Charger Dome tonight. Topeka West hosting Shawnee Heights in girls and boys basketball action. That's our 580 Preps High School game of the week. We'll send it out to Brendan and the coach, Larry Latimer, when it is appropriate to do so. But in the meantime, in between time, we'll keep it rocking here and finish out this 5 o'clock hour with some of the 580 sports headlines brought to you by Blue Dot of Kansas. I'll give you a final word before things are all said and done here. And we're figuring about a half hour, so we'll send it out, give or take a few minutes, to the Charger Dome. So let's get right into it with our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. They are brought to you by Blue Dot of Kansas. If you haven't checked on that furnace yet, well, what are you waiting for? Time to fire that puppy up. It's getting cold. And if you're having furnace troubles or you just want to see what Blue Dot can do for your HVAC system or your plumbing or your drains, check them out on the web, blue.kansas.com. That is blue, D-O-T, Kansas, period. blue.kansas.com. We will start our headlines with a look at the final participation report of the week and the injury report for Sunday's game at Mile High Stadium between the Chiefs and the Broncos. It's a good-looking one for the Chiefs. Only 2 players will have injury designations for Sunday. Joe Thuney was a full participant all week with his ankle injury. He is listed as questionable. He was a late scratch last week, but Chiefs are very optimistic that Thuney will be able to go. Kadarius Toney, after missing 2 straight weeks, was limited all week with a hamstring injury. Andy Reid saying today that it's really kind of a coin toss, 50-50, whether or not Toney will be able to suit up on Sunday. So he is also listed as questionable. One other player had been limited throughout the week. That was Nick Bolton with a groin injury, but he was a full participant today, so he has no designation for Sunday. The following players were all full participants and all have no injury designation for Sunday: Deion Bush, Willie Gay, Patrick Mahomes, Jerick McKinnon, Lucas Niang, Isaiah Pacheco, Trey Smith, L'Jarius Sneed, Jalen Watson, and Joshua Williams. All of them will play on Sunday. The Denver Broncos have ruled 3 players out for Sunday, most notably wide receiver Courtland Sutton, who has been in and out of their lineup with injuries this season. He's dealing with a hamstring, didn't practice all week. He is out for Sunday. So is fullback / tight end Andrew Beck and special team linebacker Dakota Allen. Both of them are listed as out. 3 players are questionable for the Broncos. Guard Dalton Reisner didn't practice Wednesday and Thursday, but was limited today, and he may try and give it a go for Sunday. He's listed as questionable. So is defensive tackle DJ Jones, who was added to the participation report Thursday and didn't practice with a shoulder injury. He was limited today. Justin Sternad, linebacker, was limited on Thursday and then didn't practice today, dealing with a knee injury, so he is also questionable. The rest of the Broncos on the injury report do not have an injury designation and are expected to play on Sunday. That includes offensive lineman Tom Compton, kicker Brandon McManus, long snapper Jacob Bobenmoyer, outside linebacker Baron Browning, defensive lineman Jonathan Harris, safety Kareem Jackson, wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, cornerback Kawan Williams, defensive tackle Deshaun Williams, linebacker Jonathan Cooper, and tight end Albert Okwuegbunam. It's a long list of injured players. And that's not even getting to their IR guys. And they've got a very long injured reserve list as well. Again, most notable absence for the Broncos is Sutton at wide receiver. That leaves the Broncos in a real bind at the wide receiver spot. They're already down KJ Hamler for the year. They lost Tim Patrick in training camp. So they're down to Jerry Jeudy, Kendall Hinton, Brandon Johnson, Montrell Washington, and Jalen Virgil at the wide receiver spots. Not exactly murderer's row. If Dalton Reisner can go, they could really use him. It's been a difficult year for Reisner, though some happy news for the former K-Stater earlier this week as it was announced he was named the team's finalist for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. And if you know anything about Dalton Reisner or followed his career at Kansas State, knew what he was up to off the field at Kansas State, the only surprise is that this didn't happen sooner. No question in my mind, if Reisner has a long enough NFL career, he's going to win Man of the Year. I really believe that about him. And I think that would be more meaningful to Dalton than any on-field award he could possibly win. There's a great video of it. The Broncos social media had a great video of Reisner being informed that he was the team's nominee. If you haven't seen it, I'd seek it out. It's really, really cool. I can't say enough good things about Dalton Reisner. Just one of the neatest people I've met in my time in sports media. So was happy to see that and hopeful that he can be on the field. I know it would be exciting for him to get back on the field against the Chiefs, given his connections to the state of Kansas. But that's a beat-up offensive line. They've got 4 guys on the IR on the offensive line, including both starting tackles. They're down to Calvin Anderson and former Chief, I believe, unless I'm thinking of somebody different, Cameron Fleming at right tackle. I'm trying to remember if he turned up for the Chiefs at some point in his 9-year career. No, I'm thinking of Cameron Irving. I have that wrong. I apologize. The intern responsible for giving me bad information has been fired. So that's what they're down to at tackle right now. The Broncos. It's not a real good situation on the offensive line. Should be a big day for the Chiefs front to get some pressure on Russell Wilson and keep the league's worst scoring offense off the board on Sunday. Continuing with our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines, take a look at some other noteworthy injuries for the upcoming Week 14 in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens, as I mentioned earlier, are likely to start Tyler Huntley over Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Jackson left last week's Ravens win over the Broncos with a knee injury. He is listed as doubtful. And John Harbaugh said, quote, "It looks like it's going to be Tyler on Sunday." Baltimore has lost 5 of the last 6 games, including 4 in a row, where Lamar Jackson has not started. And it's a huge game for the Ravens as they try and stay a factor in the AFC North race, with as well as Cincinnati is playing right now. And Cincinnati, of course, being favored to beat the Browns, which the flip side, of course, is they've never done that with Joe Burrow as their quarterback. But this is a big one for the Ravens. They need it. And it looks like they're going to have to get it with Tyler Huntley at the helm. Another big injury for Sunday, Giants running back Saquon Barkley, questionable for Sunday because of a neck injury. He appeared on the injury report for the first time on Thursday and was limited both Thursday and Friday. Coach Brian Daboll hopeful that he would play, but when asked if there was any doubt, said, quote, "I'd say probably got to see." Giants are also going to be without defensive tackle Leonard Williams. That's a big loss for them physically and intangibly. He's got a neck injury. He did not practice this week. Couple of the noteworthy injuries for some of the more noteworthy contests coming up in Week 14. Let's keep it moving on our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines here on 580 Sports Talk. How about a little World Cup date for you? It was a wild day in Qatar at the 2022 FIFA World Cup. 2 thrilling matches with late game equalizers ended up being decided by penalty kicks. I don't know how y'all feel about penalty kicks. I think for people who aren't soccer people, they can be very riveting because there's so much invested, particularly when you get to this stage of the World Cup. And it's so emotional and it's so nerve-wracking. You can't help but feel something as it's happening, even if you don't have a rooting interest. You feel something because the tension is so palpable in those moments. Anyway, the pre-tournament favorite is going home. Brazil. They were the number 1 liability for sportsbooks everywhere. They were the betting favorite. They were the public favorite to win the World Cup. They have crashed out in the quarterfinals, falling to Croatia on penalty kicks. Croatia scored a late equalizer in, I believe it was added time, as Brazil had scored. I believe it was 0-0, went to extra time. Brazil scored, And then Croatia scored really late. I want to say the 118th minute of the 120 allotted to tie the match, and then won on penalties 4-2. So Croatia advances to the semifinals for a second straight World Cup, where they will face Argentina, who very nearly had a choke for the ages. They led 2-0 in regulation, gave up 2 late goals to the Netherlands, including one on a set play in the 100th minute, the last minute of added time in regulation. That match went to penalties. Argentina won it 4-3. So Lionel Messi and company are moving on to the semifinals. Argentina and Croatia will play on December 13th. The quarterfinals remaining are tomorrow at 9 a.m. Morocco faces Portugal. At 1 p.m., England battles France. A lot of people think now that whoever wins that match becomes the odds-on favorite to win the World Cup, England or France. So that's what's been going on out at the FIFA World Cup. 2 thrilling matches, great goals, taut, tense penalties. Just doesn't get a whole lot better than that. We continue on our Blue Dot of Kansas sports headline. We go to college basketball for this next headline. Many of you may be familiar with Grinnell College of Grinnell, Iowa, and their record-setting offensive system of basketball. Grinnell College in Little Grinnell, Iowa, takes great pride in what they call the system. They run and gun, and that is an understatement. They shoot a lot of three-pointers. They substitute in a lot of players. They don't play a whole lot of defense. They are not typically a hugely successful program, but they're always in the news. Ask yourself this. Do you know any other Division III basketball programs? Are any of them notable for anything? No, probably not. I could tell you all about my DePaul Fighting Tigers, but I don't think you'd want to listen, frankly. But Grinnell, you know them because of what they do. They had a guy score like 130 points in a game not too long ago. They're always in the news because they are setting records. And they set another one last night when they took on Emmaus Bible College. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I apologize if I am not. Emmaus. Emmaus Bible College. Grinnell beat Emmaus Bible College 124-67. Now, nothing about that final score is out of the ordinary. It is very much out of the ordinary to shoot 111 three-pointers. That's what Grinnell did. That is the most three-pointers attempted in an NCAA basketball game. The previous record was set by Troy in 1992 when they shot 109 three-pointers in a game against, and no, I'm not making this up, DeVry. They beat DeVry 258-141 in what is to this day the highest scoring game in NCAA history. They only shot 109 threes. Grinnell shot 111 threes. So you're asking yourself, well, how many two-pointers did Grinnell shoot? Would you believe none? None. 0. They did not attempt a single shot that was not a three-pointer. 111 threes. They made 40 of them. Their total made threes is second in NCAA history. The all-time record for three-pointers made in an NCAA game is 42, set by, you'll never believe it, Grinnell College. They did it against, you'll never believe this, the same school, Emmaus Bible College, back in 2018. It was 138 points they had a guy score. Jack Taylor scored 138 points in a game in 2012. Now, look, I know some people will scoff at that and roll their eyes and say that's not legitimate, that's not real. Who cares? It's Division III. But I will say this as a retort. When I was in high school, I received some recruiting interest. I played baseball in high school. I received some recruiting interest from Grinnell College. Their coach reached out to me, sent me some stuff, some information about the school. I would not have known anything about Grinnell College if it had not been for what they do playing basketball. They've been doing this for the better part of 30 years now. This is how they play. They shoot a lot of shots. They try and score a lot of points. They go for records when they have a chance to set records. I have been in their gym. That is a long story. But I have been in their gym, and they hang banners for every year that they lead the nation in scoring average, which is just about every year because, again, that's how they play. But that's what Grinnell College is. And when you are a small liberal arts college in America, there are a lot of them. There are a ton of them the further into the Midwest you get. We don't have a lot of them here in Kansas. Not Division III liberal arts colleges anyway. There are some fine institutions of learning that offer 4-year degrees throughout the state of Kansas. But the further you get into the Midwest, there are a lot more of them. There are a ton of them in Iowa and Illinois and Indiana and Ohio and Michigan that are pretty similar in a lot of ways as far as what sort of educational opportunities that they provide. You have to differentiate yourself in some way or form or fashion. And Grinnell College does that by being the school that plays the weird basketball. Maybe weird isn't fair, but they are the school that makes headlines for scoring lots of points in basketball games. I did not go to Grinnell, as you all are aware. But when I was being recruited by them, that was how I knew what they were about. Oh, yeah, it's the school where you get the basketball that scores all the points. That is their get down in Grinnell, Iowa. 40 for 111 from 3. Honestly, that's how you can kind of tell they're not real good, because they have had some legitimately good teams. I think they made the NCAA tournament a couple times. But if they were closer to a 40% three-point shooting team, they'd have made 53. So they'd have blown their own record away. Had an off shooting night. Only made 40 of 111 threes. That'll wrap up our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. We're going to take one final break. We'll come back with a final word, and we'll wrap things up on this edition of 580 Sports Talk before we send it to our 580 Preps High School Basketball Game of the Week. Wrapping up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Dan Lucero here with you with a final word for the weekend. I can't believe how bad the Denver Broncos are. It's 14 weeks into the season. We have ample evidence that the Denver Broncos are indeed butt cheeks, but I still can't believe it. And there is a part of me, still a part of me, the part of me that's watched and rooted for Russell Wilson for 10 great years of his career with the Seattle Seahawks, that thinks there still has to be something there for Russell Wilson. Again, I'm going against a lot of evidence that suggests that there is just nothing there for him anymore. But this would not be the week for that magic to come out, not against this Chiefs team. I think they're going to be laser focused, locked in to get a divisional win, to make it 14 straight wins over the Broncos, and to get back on track after that disappointing loss to the Bengals last Sunday. And I think the Chiefs may not blow out the Broncos. They may not win by 30, but I think they're going to be in command of this game and really take care of their business on both sides of the football. I expect a professional, on point, mostly mistake-free effort from the Chiefs in a win on Sunday. Hope you enjoy the game. Hope you enjoy your sports weekend. And I hope you enjoy our 580 Preps High School Basketball Game of the Week. That is coming up next. Brendan Dworzinski and Larry Latimer chomping at the bit to get on the air from the Charger Dome. It's Topeka West and Shawnee Heights. That's coming up next. But until Monday from 3 to 6, I'm Dan for Brendan saying goodbye. And thanks for listening to 580 Sports Talk.